All right, folks, we have the new moon in Scorpio in a bit more than 48 hours, I would say about 55 hours from now. I'm recording this on Monday, about 1:45 p.m. Pacific time, and the new moon in Scorpio is on Wednesday, November the 19th for me at 10:47 p.m. Pacific time. So for a lot of people, it's going to be on November the 20th. It's a pretty straightforward chart, but for the new moon, but it's anything but a straightforward time. And I'm going to explain that in a second. It still holds the possibility and the key towards some kind of mysterious, harmonious resolution that it's one of these things where defining something as good or bad, or especially as good as bad, or positive or negative, can be a very tricky business, right? It's one of those things where pressure to end something or let go of something or release something or something dubious going on somewhere that ultimately leads to some sort of ending, and we may view that entire experience as negative, and I don't think we would be wrong if especially there's something deceitful or problematic going on. But it might, looking back at it, we might realize that it was actually happening for our benefit. Our lives are kind of full of stories of, well, if this job had worked out, or if I'd gotten that promotion, then I might never have become this, or I might never have achieved that, or I might never have started my own company, or I might never have joined this, or I may not have moved to some place that I absolutely love. Let's start to dive into specifics with the Scorpio new moon. The Scorpio new moon conjuncts Mercury, a retrograde Mercury, also in Scorpio when the new moon happens, trines Neptune in Pisces, and opposes Uranus in Taurus. Those are the three aspects that this new moon makes: a conjunction with the retrograde Mercury, a trine to Neptune in Pisces, and an opposition to Uranus in Mercury. And these are all very tight aspects. Really, I think I would be forgiven for saying within about a degree, within a degree and a half of being exact. And the only other aspect that is encoded into this new moon chart is Mars in Sagittarius squaring the nodes, the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo. Now, a new moon occurs during a period of time when the sun is going over the part of the chart where the new moon occurs. So the new moon in Scorpio, by definition, has to occur when the sun and the moon meet up, conjunct each other, in Scorpio, of course. So the sun is in Scorpio, the moon is in Scorpio, they conjunct, and a new moon in Scorpio occurs. But the personal planets, at the very least Venus and Mercury, are also part of that narrative, because the sun, Venus, and Mercury travel close together. Even when Venus or Mercury might be really far forward from the sun or retrograding and moving back, they kind of oscillate around the sun from our vantage point, from where we are at on planet Earth. Sometimes Mars is close to the personal planets, and sometimes he is not. Right now, we're counting him absolutely as close to the personal planets, to the extent that by the time we get into the sign of Sagittarius, Mars is going to be really with the personal planets. in Sagittarius and Capricorn, it will be a very close link, but certainly this is true, has been true of Scorpio as well. So at some point with this Mars transit and Mercury transit and Venus transit, a new moon occurs. And that new moon opens up a 4-week window. You all have heard me say this lots of times. A 4-week window creates a month for all those cultures and traditions that use a lunar calendar, which on a functional day-to-day level makes total sense to me. Much more sense than a solar calendar. It's just that we are so attuned to a solar calendar that even I have a hard time pulling away from it. But experientially, a lunar calendar makes a lot of sense. And the word month, as you've heard me say tons of times on this channel, is derived from the word moon. And the word month is created, a month starts when the new moon occurs. It's a 4-week period, a 28-day period. And the month ends and the new month starts when the next new moon occurs. And the month has its ebbs and flows. Its crests 2 weeks after the new moon when the full moon occurs, and then it ebbs and ends as it heads to the next new moon. And the new moon opens up a 4-week window where we can take action to plant seeds, create beginnings, take action, the next right step, the next right step, the next right step, to bring matters related to where it is that this new moon occurs, the house where this new moon occurs, into alignment with what we want or what we value, what we want to correct, actions we want to take. And 5 to 7 months later, these actions can bear some sort of fruition or reach some sort of a peak when the full moon occurs in the same house where the new moon occurs. So that's kind of an annual cycle related to each house. So the new moon in Scorpio is on Wednesday. It opens up a 4-week window all the way to December give me 1 second. Now I'm going to want all these dates, which is going to drive all of us crazy. December the 19th, I think, is when the Sagittarius new moon is. I'm going to confirm that in a second. So it opens up a 4-week window where you are asked to take action, the next right step, the next right step. And also not just take, because sometimes with the new moon, the universe also brings us certain opportunities. When it's a new moon and not an eclipse like this one, it is technically subtle but unmistakable opportunity. They aren't huge, but it's this like, oh, I just had a new moon in this house, and here's this thing. Let me respond to it. Let me apply for it. Let me deal with it. Let me factor it in. It's something that the new moon is bringing. Sometimes within 48 to 72 hours, this thing drops out of the ether. And sometimes it takes, within that couple of weeks after a new moon. The Sagittarius new moon is on December the 19th. Okay. So, by definition, the new moon in Scorpio creates a 4-week period of focus on the house occupied by Scorpio in your chart. I use the Western tropical zodiac and the whole sign, WHOLE sign, house system. You do whatever you want to do. And if you are an astrology novice or enthusiast and what I just said makes no sense to you, you can let that be. But it's a 4-week window period where you take action to bring the part of the chart where the new moon occurs into alignment with what you want to correct. What's the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and what is it that needs to be done? Planets and the personal planets that have been going through the Scorpio part of the chart, as those of you who have watched my last few 4, 5, 6, 7 videos know, are in the fortunate position of creating trines. These are harmonious aspects, supportive aspects, powerfully supportive aspects to the nodes, the North Node specifically, Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, and Jupiter in Cancer. As the planets move into the sign of Sagittarius, while those planets will trine Chiron in Aries, matters become a little bit more complicated because the planets from Sagittarius will square the nodes, just as Mars is getting ready to do so, and Saturn and Neptune, which is an edgier aspect that has a kind of urgent dependency on it. And that doesn't mean that technically all transits through Scorpio are going to be easier for everybody than transits through Sagittarius. If you are a fire sign rising, an Aries rising, a Sag rising, a Leo rising, planets going through the Sag house typically would feel lighter than them going through the water signs for you. For example, I'm making generalizations. It depends on what planets you've got in your natal chart and, you know, what else is going on, etc. So, but we just had, I mean, the nice thing is that as I look at, is even if I just look at the week ahead, you know, today, Jupiter trines Saturn and the Sun trines Saturn. The Sun in Scorpio trines Saturn, which is trining Jupiter in Cancer. And the Sun trined Jupiter yesterday. So we're just, if you look at the last video I did, I talked about these harmonious trines occurring. Tomorrow, Venus trines the North Node on the 18th. On the 19th, a retrograde Mercury trines Neptune. And of course, we have a new moon on the 19th that trines Neptune. On the 21st, the Sun trines Neptune. On the 22nd, a retrograde Mercury trines Jupiter and Saturn. And by the time, as we head into next week, Venus, who's moving through Scorpio, is going to get into place where she's going to, you know, she's trining the North Node tomorrow, and she's going to get into a place where she's going to trine Jupiter and Saturn and Neptune. And she and Mercury are going to conjunct actually on the 24th. So there's this, if you take a look at my last 2 or 3 videos, and this particularly video about Mercury retrograde, you know, and the conjunctions that he's making and the trines that he's making, this narrative, I'm asking you all to kind of explore it. The mystery of these trines is that it's very likely or very possible that on the one hand, the astrology is giving us a lot of favorable aspects. On the other hand, because these trines concern Saturn and Neptune and Pisces, they touch on a certain vulnerability for a lot of us in the Pisces part of the chart, what I've called the crisis in Pisces, that started in 2012 and may have reached some sort of a peak or a crisis point in 2016-17, growing in 14-15, but especially in 16-17. And Saturn's entry into Pisces since March 2023 has been demanding that we process learnings, understand karmic consequences of behavior that, however justifiable, was not the wisest or most mature or most collected on our part, but also to understand that there could be themes of deception and gaslighting and loss and theft and Neptunian fogginess, our own inability to manage matters related to the house occupied by Pisces in our chart responsibly. Neptune's transit through any part of the chart makes us very I know this is happening. I don't have the energy. I'm just going to put my feet up. I can't handle it. I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know how to get started. It just makes us very open to just giving our power away. And on some level, we may feel like we're giving, you know, it's a kind of a, you have to kind of make these choices and sit with these choices. With Neptune, especially, elements of fate can become very involved. But it really depends on how much you want to exert yourself and how you want to protect yourself and how much. But with Neptune, there can be a tendency to just be like, you know what, it's too much work, or nothing is mine anyway. when I die, I'm not taking anything with me. So if someone is really trying to steal this or whatever it is, I'm just gonna, whatever. I just can't get to it. I'm too busy. I'm too preoccupied. We become very loose with boundaries. We have a tendency to undersell ourselves. And it's not always advisable. It's a very personal decision with a Neptune transit with regard to and again, it's one of these things with Neptune where Neptune may earmark something or may have its sights on something that you may be egoically very attached to, but Neptune knows is not right for you. So the only way Neptune knows to remove it from your life is to create a fogginess around it so it can just be taken away. And so again, we're in this land of, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Is there room for harmony? Saturn's presence in Pisces through March 2023 has been saying, stop the energy leaks. Process your own learnings and lessons. Get clear on whether someone is transgressing on boundaries or whether you need to act responsibly and manage issues related to the Pisces part of the chart. Grab the bull by its horns and become disciplined and more accountable and act towards your highest benefit and develop that spine and manage this craziness. And Saturn, of course, is back in Pisces, but so is Neptune now. So this desire to corral, set boundaries around the cloudiest of planets, the wateriest of planets, the most arguably mystical, but the most nebulous of planets, Neptune, that fight is on again all the way to the middle of February of next year. What is intriguing is that Mars going through Scorpio and Mercury going through Scorpio 3 times, and the Sun going through Scorpio and Venus going through Scorpio are all somehow supporting whatever is on the cards right now. But whatever's been going on in the Scorpio part of the chart has definitely it would really shock and surprise me if there was real clarity and transparency. It might be that there has been a certain amount of messaging. Look, Mercury moved out of Scorpio. Mercury was direct prior to November the 9th. And Mercury moved into Sagittarius on October the 29th. And then went retrograde on November the 9th. And tomorrow, I believe, the day before the new moon, and this would make sense, Mercury, on the 18th, comes back into Scorpio and is going to remain in Scorpio. He's going to go direct on November the 29th, and then I think it's December 13th when he finally moves back into Sagittarius. So we might find that communication starts up again about some matter related to the Scorpio part of the chart. Venus is now in Scorpio, and this is a very, again, a happy occurrence insofar as she tends to bring opportunity, financial opportunities, relationship opportunities, opportunities to build bridges, create harmony, create flow, create gain even. At the same time, Venus can make us rather passive. Just as with Mars, I always say assertive, not aggressive. With Venus, I would say harmonious, friendly, but not submissive. The new moon creates a 4-week window. What complicates this new moon is that, yes, it's conjunct to retrograde Mercury. But even more than that, new moons that occur when Mercury is retrograde. Look, Mercury is going to go direct on November 29th, and certain matters will start to really achieve a certain type of clarity by, let's say, December 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. And things will start to move forward. But the real forward movement is not going to occur till the new moon on December the 19th. I find in my work that when a new moon occurs, when Mercury is retrograde, after Mercury goes direct, it's not as if the rules change dramatically. The rules still apply. After Wednesday's new moon or Thursday's new moon, depending on where you are, you might find that the Scorpio part of the chart takes on a kind of urgency, and matters start to come up in such a way that more action can be taken. But there are gates through this process because we have to wait till Mercury goes direct. Also, in Scorpio on November 29th, and get to a point where Mercury is traveling starting to visibly move forward at least a little bit. So let's say give it till December 1st or so. And then whatever forward movement starts up after Mercury's retrograde, so there's one element of forward movement that's going to come with the new moon, but Mercury will be retrograde. I think what's going to happen after the new moon is the characteristics related to a Mercury retrograde, where you're moving forward thinking one path, but you realize that that path does not have a strong foundation and you just need to switch paths. And again, my past few videos will talk about this in greater clarity. Mercury retrograde acts as a course correction. We all think we're going to go down a certain path. We all think, oh, this is the one, or these are the group of people I'm going to be, or this is the job I'm going to get, or this is based on the forward movement that's been going on for the 3 odd months prior to, and particularly the acceleration for about a month prior to when Mercury goes retrograde. And the Mercury goes retrograde and says, hold on a second. Here are some details I need to reveal to you. Here are some things you need to process, not so fast. Because the train is going on down a certain track, and really that experience may be giving you all you need right now. But you think it's, you're going to be putting all your eggs in this basket. But while Mercury is retrograde, we start to realize, oh, the foundations are not strong on this. I should not put my eggs in this basket. And sometimes an alternate appears that seems less glamorous and less exciting, but it's what the universe is like, this is the thing you should be considering or taking. Sometimes the universe offers you a way out. Sometimes the universe does not offer you a way out. And you're like, all right, well, I'm still stuck where I'm at then. If you commit to something and if you take that way out, which very often can occur, details related to that can shift after Mercury goes direct. So with this new moon, we're going to have one phase till about December the 1st, where I think we're going to start to get greater clarity around things that we may have had the odd communication here. We may have had the odd events occurring here and there. In the Scorpio part of the chart. But it's very likely that it's a mixture of fate and destiny and what we're doing and the choices we're making and karma, but it's also what others are doing. It's not completely clear. And then this retrograde Mercury conjuncts the new moon, conjuncts the sun. I'm going to come to that. and then Mercury starts to retrograde, clearing its conjunction with the Sun, goes direct on November the 29th, starts to move forward more visibly by December the 1st. And that is one phase over the next 4 weeks where I think what we thought was a path forward prior to November 9th, we start to go, whether we like it or not, here's the reality of how things are actually playing out. And it could be, yeah. Then after December the 1st to December the 19th, but especially between December the 1st and let's say December 5th, 6th, 7th, we may experience details changing. So even if we're starting to get a certain amount of clarity by December the 1st, after November the 29th, as we head towards December the 1st, as we head towards, say, let's say December the 4th, 5th, things we agreed to or things that we thought we would be switching towards or we were agreeing to, or whether it's an alternate path or an alternate route, may go through its own revision again after Mercury goes direct. And this happens. Oh, I was going to put my eggs in this basket. I'm not going to. I think I'm going to move forward with this option. And then Mercury goes direct, and you're just like, oh, even this option, things need to be clarified or are being clarified. All of this can mean a certain amount of frustration, which is what is associated with Mercury retrograde. And I'm not even going into the Mercury retrograde drama around technical snafus. I'm talking about the bigger meaning of Mercury retrograde. What is nice is by the time we get to December the 1st, December 2nd, 3rd, 4th, we may at least feel like, all right, I may not like everything that I'm hearing and seeing and reading and realizing, but at least we are moving forward. And at least I feel like I've been rescued from something that I thought had a certain future, but it does not. As we head towards December the 19th, things are likely to start to move forward in a certain way. But for things to really start to move forward in a way that you feel like, all right, this is the kind of movement that I'm actually used to, it will take until the Sagittarius new moon. Because at the time of the Sagittarius new moon, Mercury will be well direct. I find that when you have a new moon while Mercury is retrograde, matters related to the house where that new moon is occurring and that particular new moon don't really completely get going until the next new moon when Mercury is direct. So that Sagittarius new moon on December the 19th may well end up feeling like a new moon full of clarity and of direction for both the Scorpio and the Sagittarius parts of the chart. That said, the new moon in Scorpio is on November 19th. And your mission is to start to take action to bring matters related to the Scorpio part of the chart into alignment. There's a lot, it's a very powerful new moon. And again, these kind of harmonious, while there's all this confusion, while things are not completely clear, while there's an element of discombobulation, while there's an element of, while all of that is operating, the astrology suggests that things are still working out for your benefit, and indeed everyone's benefit in a situation. That's the mystery of the time. And it remains active all the way to these trines to Jupiter and Saturn and Neptune. Remain active all the way to December the 11th, because the direct Mercury is going to trine Jupiter on December the 6th, trine Saturn on December the 7th, trine Neptune on December the 11th. So whatever this new moon opens up for you till December the 1st, it's all tied up with this Mercury retrograde. Then from December 1st to the 19th, There's forward movement, and details have gotten clarified, especially on any new path or anything you may have committed to while Mercury has been retrograde. So between November 9th and November 29th. And then after December the 19th, it's like flow again. Now, let's talk about these aspects. The new moon opposes Uranus. This really adds a twist to things. Uranus has been trying to get you to understand who you really are authentically. Your individuality in the house occupied by the sign of Taurus since 2018. And Uranus, having briefly dipped into Gemini this year, is now back in Taurus till April of 2026, finishing up this transit. Who am I? And am I fully expressed in my authenticity and my individuality in the house where Uranus is transiting? And what is remaining and what needs to be done? When you have an opposition, and you have Mercury opposing Uranus 3 times, direct, retrograde, direct, and there's an opposition to Uranus, I think, tomorrow, on the 19th. Just before the new moon occurs, Mercury is going to oppose Uranus. And then Mercury is going to oppose Uranus again when he's direct in early December. And when this kind of an opposition happens and you have a new moon opposite Uranus, this means that action needs to be taken in the Scorpio part of the chart over the next 4 weeks in such a way that can allow you to be fully you in the Taurus part of the chart. What does that mean? Does that mean that you need to be free of something? Does that mean that you need to be in the right place to be yourself completely? You've got to see how events occur and what is occurring, and whether ultimately what is occurring in the Scorpio part of the chart is also leading you to be authentically you in the Taurus part of the chart. This is not an unambiguous occurrence. This is not an ambiguous aspect. This is a very clear dependency between this new moon and the opposition to Uranus. And when a faster moving planet or entity or occurrence like the new moon opposes a slower moving entity like Uranus, the faster moving entity needs to do something to serve. It's like a tug of war. Who's going to win? Uranus will win. It's a heavier planet. And so the opportunity is for this new moon, and whatever action is going to be taken over the next 4 weeks, and I've already given you phases in this next Scorpio month, with the understanding that things will really move forward after December the 19th. But listen, the direction that they're really going to move forward in is dependent on what happens between now and December the 19th with these phases. But whatever action is taken over the next 4 weeks needs to allow you to be fully expressed as your authentic and individual self in the Taurus part of the chart. There are to be no easy answers in the Taurus part of the chart in conventional terms, such as I'm a researcher. What are you researching? Does it knock on your heart? Is it expressing who you are? Are you riding the right horse as opposed to the wrong horse? It's a little bit like saying, I'm a singer, but it's just like, no, where do you shine? You can be versatile, but where do you shine? It's so interesting. When I think of a singer like Dolly Parton, she can sing just about anything that is thrown her way when it comes to whether it's the pop, rock, or certainly country folk arena. But it is refracted through her individuality. And that's very Uranian. It's very much around, sometimes with Uranus, as I've said to you before, there could be two opportunities. One that rationally and conventionally makes total sense to take, and one that just feels right to you. And you're like, this is where the pull is. And it's recognizing with Uranus, because it's never really about the opportunity as much as it can be about what this opportunity represents as a stepping stone. Who you're going to meet, what relationships you're going to build. Because an opportunity may last 3 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, 3 years. But what the right, being in the place that is right for you, what it means to keep the appointments that are meant for you, what it means to identify the breadcrumbs that are on your path, could mean that making the right choice actually pays off in a significant way 20 years down the line, because you made a choice and aligned with what was right to you and found yourself with the group of people in the tribe that you were meant to be in, or actually doing certain work that you're meant to be doing. It's like the kind of choices where people make where they're just like, well, I could do this and I could sell my show and I could do this and it will, but no, I'm going to not sell the show. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to partner with so-and-so and everyone's telling me I should sell the show this way, but I'm going to do it this way. It's a little bit like stories like the Sylvester Stallone Rocky story, where they try to buy the script from him but not have him in it, but it's just like, no, this is who I am. This is what it is. This is how I'm going to do this. This is what is right for me. That's very Uranian, but it's also a question of building on what that content is that is so right for you. Who you are, not just in terms of the strategies you deploy, but what you do. And something about this new moon in Scorpio is saying whatever actions and alignment and choices are being made over the next 4 weeks need to allow you to express yourself and your life in a way that is authentic to you in the Taurus part of the chart. The new moon conjuncts Mercury, a retrograde Mercury. The Sun and a retrograde Mercury conjunct exactly the day after the new moon on November the 20th. And on November the 20th, they end the last Mercury cycle, or I should say the current Mercury cycle, which was in Leo, which is a Leo Mercury cycle, because the last time a retrograde Mercury and the Sun conjuncted, it was in the sign of Leo in August. And now a retrograde Mercury and Sun conjunct in Scorpio. So for the next 3 odd months, a new Mercury cycle starting November 20th is going to be in place. And a new set of requirements around, and as I've said to you before, Mercury cycles are very powerful and very constructive. In the middle of everything else that's going on, the big Saturn transit, the Jupiter transit, the eclipses, the everything, there's this drumbeat of activity that is taking place slowly that often has to do with communication and transactions and expression. But something gets built. Something is working to get built. Some sort of a project gets started in the Scorpio part of the chart that is outside of just being a part of the Scorpio month till December the 19th. That takes us all the way into February, March. And the first phase of that project is from the Sun-Mercury conjunction to when Mercury goes direct, November the 20th, to November the 29th, where we set down requirement definition. What are we doing? What are we building? There's something about this new moon and the Sun-Mercury conjunction on the 20th that starts to bring matters related to the Scorpio part of the chart into greater focus. And it's not necessarily going to be all pretty. And it may well be linked to this crisis in Pisces that's been going on since 2012 and reached some sort of a crisis point in 16-17, maybe a continuation of that. It may very well be linked to Saturn trying to stabilize matters related to the Pisces part of the chart since March 2023, so that again in the Pisces part there's greater clarity. But the mysterious thing is that even if things that are occurring tug at your heart in a way that is challenging or painful, the chart seems to be suggest that things are still working out in everybody's favor with these trines, that there could still be some gain at the end of it. But more importantly, it could allow you to be more fully and completely you in the Taurus part of the chart. Now, that doesn't mean that I just want everybody to not set boundaries or not fight for anything that they value. That's not what the chart is saying. You do what you feel needs to be done, but pay attention to what is starting to happen around you. When Mercury conjuncts the Sun, the biggest challenge of this week is that we may really feel like we cannot access, first and foremost, when Mercury is retrograde, even matters related to the house Mercury rules. So the houses occupied by Virgo and Gemini in your chart may feel like, they've slowed down, something is being revised. I've already in my last video told you, and this happens with new moons like this one, we may experience, the new moon is happening in Scorpio, but you may feel like it's a kind of a new moon in Virgo, because in the Virgo part of your chart, where the eclipse occurred on September 21st, because we are on November the 21st, 2 months after that eclipse. And very often, the thing that is most immediately and palpably felt is what that South Node, in this case, South Node new moon solar eclipse in Virgo, is trying to get you to release in the Virgo part of the chart. And that may feel very relevant and very topical. It does not mean that you have to run around releasing things and creating eclipse-like occurrences, but it's very likely that something is continuing to brew and bring awareness and encourage you to create constructive and intentional change so that by March 2026, or certainly by February 2027, you have released what you need to release in the Virgo part of the chart and moved towards what you're trying to create in the Pisces part of the chart. Take a look at my very last video if this intrigues you. What I just said. So for some of you, this new moon may feel very pregnant and very connected to that new moon solar eclipse in Virgo. The last video that I did. Take a look at that, please. The one before this. In the free part of the channel, the non-member part of my channel. When Mercury conjuncts the Sun, it can feel like Mercury's, when Mercury is retrograde, there are 3 dates when that Mercury retrograde feeling is really concentrated. When Mercury goes retrograde, November 9th. When Mercury conjuncts the Sun, November 20th. And when Mercury goes direct, November 29th. The 9th and the 29th are really more powerfully Mercury retrograde. But you get a kind of a mini retrograde feeling around the 20th. So again, travel snafus, technical snafus, and just feeling like what's happening when planets are combusting, conjuncting the Sun, and especially Mercury, or Venus or Mars, is that these personal planets, as I like to say, they go into a conference room with the Sun, and they're getting their marching orders. And they're burning off a certain amount of past karma related to the project. It's like a baptism of fire. It's the Sun. The Sun's rays, the Sun's energy is like an etch-a-sketch, cleaning and clearing out a certain amount of energy. But the Sun is also saying, Mercury, the Moon with the new moon, Venus, Mars, are really extensions of our egoic self as we grapple with 3D reality. The Sun is our solar self. It is our cleanest, clearest connection to Source. And so this is where our higher self and our mercurial self get to meet, where the higher self cleanses a certain amount of mercurial accretion and says, when it comes to communication and transactions, these are your marching orders until we meet again. And it is happening in the Scorpio part of the chart. Whatever all these transits, Mars going through Scorpio, and Mercury going through Scorpio, and now back in Scorpio, the Sun going through Scorpio, the new moon in Scorpio, Venus in Scorpio, whatever's going on in the Scorpio part of the chart has its resonance not only till the month of Scorpio ends on December the 19th, but all the way to February, March, as this Mercury cycle in Scorpio, that gets started on December 20th also plays out. And this new moon kind of initiates that process as well. Not kind of, it does. And with Mars's transit through Scorpio, Mercury's first transit through Scorpio, the Sun in Scorpio, Venus in Scorpio, we can feel the presence and the building of something, and even certain communications occurring, but we don't quite, it's like a kaleidoscope or a telescope that isn't in focus, like binoculars that isn't in focus. And with this new moon, things come into focus, and that is going to have its own impact with these 3 phases that I talked about. Between the new moon and Mercury going direct, recognition, realization, requirements definition. What's really been going on? What steps is someone going to take, or am I going to take? Details getting clarified after Mercury goes direct and things moving in a certain direction till December the 19th, and then after December the 19th, everything's set. And the train proverbially can start gathering speed. And also start showing results. That's the thing. When a new moon occurs and seeds are being planted, we may not start to see, let's say you commit to something between the 20th and the 29th of November. And let's say that you're taking some sort of a part-time job or a gig or something like that. Let's say you even start working at it in the beginning of December. You may not really start to feel the full impact of the finances that are coming in and all that, and things move on until after December the 19th. And it could be that you commit to something, but then you go through the first week of December going, why are these details shifting again? It's because everyone is getting clear as to what actually needs to happen to make things work. So the new moon is conjunct to Mercury retrograde. That Mercury does not have a lot of power yet because it is locked up in a conference room with the Sun. It is a powerful moment because our mercurial self, our mental self, is getting a download from the Sun. But really, a number of new cycles are starting between Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The trine to Neptune in Pisces disturbs me a little because Neptune is a planet that, now, if some of what you're contemplating is a set of actions that need to be taken in the Scorpio part of the chart to pursue spiritual, renunciatory, creative, therapeutic, musical, dance inspired by the muses kind of activities in the Pisces part of the chart, then this new moon, apart from the fact that it's conjunct to retrograde Mercury, is beautiful. If, however, you're trying to, there could really be something. This is a new moon that I associate with loss for some reason, but it's a kind of loss that ultimately works for your benefit and helps you become more you in the Taurus part of the chart. You've got to determine what your boundaries are in the Pisces part of the chart and stand up and assert them more. With Saturn and Neptune in the Pisces part of the chart, part of the message absolutely is, look, don't, kind of manage the energy leaks. But there's something about this that you get some sort of clarity potentially with this crisis in Pisces by the 29th of November. Certainly even more in the first week of December. And it's not, you still have Venus going through Scorpio all the way to November the 30th. It's not a negative time in Scorpio. It's just so interesting. It's so puzzling. It's definitely a new moon when a Mercury is retrograde, and frankly, conjunct that Mercury retrograde. Very much that 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood. And I don't know that you're taking the one less traveled by, but it may well feel like it. Very important new moon. Very much a crossroads. Very much a crossroads energy. Part of the crossroads energy has to do with you being on this trajectory of releasing something in the Virgo part of the chart that is a security blanket, but you know is starting to not be quite as fruitful and maybe keeping you from building the new. So you've got to adjust, you've got to accelerate, you've got to put more attention on building the new while still figuring out whether you're ready to fully release something in the Virgo part of the chart or not. And the answer may be not yet, but it is allowing you to kind of shift your focus and attention on the more desired end state. That's one type of crossroads. The other type of crossroads has to do very much with the connection between the Scorpio and the Pisces part of the chart, the crisis in Pisces since 2012 that reached some sort of a peak in 16, 17, and dealing with the consequences of that and stabilizing it since March 2023. And there could be, as a result of this, you may feel like you kind of have to manage an energy leak again. There could be, for some of you, some kind of a loss or something that feels like a loss. I would just say don't panic just yet, because all the way to December, all the way to December the 11th, certainly December the 7th, December the 8th. I mean, till December the 8th, December the 11th, all these aspects, trining Saturn, trining Neptune, opposing Uranus, Mercury being the last planet at that point in time being new, so is active, and it is trying to work out something out for your benefit. But it might have this kind of trade-off quality. It might come with a loss, but that loss allows you to be more yourself in the Taurus part of the chart. And it comes with these phases. I don't love new moons. Now, if you were to say, let's pare this down and what is my overall message? The overall message is the same as with any new moon, my darlings. A new moon is a portal or an opening to take action over the next 4 weeks to bring matters related to the Scorpio part of the chart into alignment with what you value. For some of you, it could be a new opportunity in the Scorpio part of the chart. Planting seeds in the right direction. Mars squaring the nodes from Sagittarius is again, it's happening at a time when the eclipses, wherever Mars is, our energy goes, we're setting boundaries, we're pursuing goals. And we've got to do that, setting boundaries and pursuing goals in the Sagittarius part of the chart in such a way that it, again, allows us to lean into the Pisces part of the chart and release what we're trying to release in the Virgo part of the chart. It just has greater edge and urgency to it. There's a dependency. Right now in the Sagittarius part of the chart, the energy is active, competitive, energetic. We're applying ourselves, we're pursuing goals. There could be a feeling of skirmish. That will shift even in 2 days when the Sun enters Sagittarius and brings a certain visibility and connection to Source in the Sagittarius part of the chart. And then Venus comes into Sagittarius, which will be lovely at the end of this month, bringing a certain amount of harmony and opportunities. And both Venus and Mars and the Sun will be together in Sagittarius. And then Mercury will enter the Sagittarius on, I think, December the 12th or thereabouts. And by that time, the personal planets at least will have shifted into the Sagittarius part of the chart, but the Scorpio part of the chart remains active till December the 19th, and even beyond that, because till December the 19th, we're still in the month of Scorpio created by this new moon 2 days from now. And the Scorpio part of the chart in some ways in the background remains active with something being constructed all the way to February, March of next year, when the next Mercury retrograde Sun conjunction happens in the sign of Pisces. And that's the other thing that is so interesting, is that you have a Mercury cycle starting in Scorpio, on the 20th, and then the next Mercury cycle starts up in Pisces, again linking the Scorpio and the Pisces part of the chart. Some sort of connection between the Scorpio and the Pisces part of the chart is a very important set of developments that is going to take us all the way into July, August of next year. Mars is the ruler of this planet. Mars is one of the rulers of the... I don't even want to talk about rulers and dispositions. It's just too convoluted and all over the place. Mars is one of the rulers of Scorpio. I'm going to do it anyway. He's in Sagittarius, getting ready to square the nodes. Jupiter's the ruler of Sagittarius. Jupiter's in Cancer. Cancer is a moon. So there's a kind of the new moon, Mars and Jupiter. Again, that link between the Scorpio and the water signs, with Mars squaring the nodes, harkening back to the eclipses. Pluto is the other ruler in Aquarius. Neptune is in Pisces. He's certainly one of the dispositors of the chart, and the new moon trines Neptune. I say that because Saturn is in Pisces. And Uranus is, listen, practically every planet, all the planets we've talked about are involved in the rulership or the disposition of this new moon. And I'm going to stop there, because at some point you were just like, why is he talking about you? I'm making links in my mind. Some of you who really know charts and dispositorships, etc., will be following with me. Some of you are just like, where's he jumping to? So I'm going to stop. That's not nearly as relevant. Keep in mind, the final message I want to give you is that over the next couple of days, as you head towards Wednesday, your energy will be depleted, and you are finishing out the last new moon cycle in the sign of Libra, the house occupied by Libra. All the personal planets have long since moved out of Libra, but we're still in that month for the next 2 or 3 days. And indeed, once the moon starts to go through Libra over the next few days, you can start to feel that sense of closure of that last month in Libra. But your energy will get depleted. You might feel more depressed. Things might feel hopeless. You might just feel like you're not really being able to focus on the new or create the new until this new moon happens. Be patient and kind with yourself over the next 2 or 3 days. If your energy is depleted and you need rest, try and take that rest. Sleep, the need to nap, will be more pronounced for those of you who can access it easily. Just as around full moons we have a hard time sleeping, there's a greater pulling back. The wave is receded from the shore, receded by the time we get to the new moon. And that's after the new moon, when the wind starts to get behind the sails and the wave starts to slowly start moving towards the shore again, to crash on the shore when the full moon occurs around December the 5th, or whenever that next full moon is in Gemini, December the 4th. So any feelings of hopelessness, depression, flatness, just wait for the new moon to occur on Wednesday, Thursday. Give it till the end of the week and things might start to feel a little bit more buoyant again. I will leave it at this for everybody. I hope you found this video useful. I think it's one of my better new moon videos. But what do I know? Sometimes I release content, I'm just like, I didn't like that. And I get all this positive feedback. So, we just kind of release what is out there. 3 ways to engage with me: the free part of the videos that I put out here for free, the membership part of the channel, $6.99 a month, where I do rising sign specific videos, or if you want a personal reading, contact me in the email address in the description box below, and I will send you rates. I am still, for the folks who reached out to me after last time asking for rates for the discounts that I'm going to run for the holidays, I'm still just refining that. Know that I got your email. Know that I will respond to you. So certain discounts, etc., will become available. And for those of you who've inquired, and I'm getting back to some people today and tomorrow, know that I will find a way to factor those discounts in. My mind it's really today that I've started to get a certain amount of clarity with regard to how to move forward on certain things. You can contribute to this channel for free by liking this video or commenting on it or hyping it. You can contribute to this channel monetarily by using the thanks button below or by donating to the channel. Information on donations, memberships in the description box below, along with my email address. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not already. When you subscribe, there's a bell icon next to it. Click the wiggly bell on top and you'll be notified when I do new videos. That is where I'm going to leave this at the 1 hour mark. Thank you. Take care.